All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Trustees of Osgood Hill public meeting. It is Monday, July 20th, a little after 5 p.m. I'm the acting chairman, Dave Brown, and we're going to get started here. We have all of our members present. We'll do a roll call in a minute. We're also, I'm going to read, I guess first I should read this statement, and then we'll do a roll call. So pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30A, Section 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the trustees of Osgood Hill will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website, www.northandoverma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so on their televisions by tuning to Comcast Channel 99 or Verizon Channel 28, or alternatively online at www.northandovercam.org. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the Town of North Andover website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of the proceedings as soon as possible after this meeting. If the public would like to participate in public hearings, please email your question or comments prior to or during the meeting to me, and my email address is dbrown, DBROWN, @northandoverma.gov. And the question or comment will be read during the proceedings and responded to accordingly. And actually, let me check right now and see if I have anything in that email account that I need to pull up. Okay, as of now, there's no public input, but I'll keep an eye on my email through the meeting. All right, so let's do a verbal roll call. Dave Brown, acting chair, is present. Jean Irwin?
Present.
Present, thank you. Welcome to our newest member, Thomas Dugan. Tom, are you present?
I'm present. Good evening, everyone.
And Robin Ellington, present?
I am present. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And Jerry Justin?
Present.
Excellent. So all 5 current members are here. We also have our director, Joanna. Joanna, I'm getting mixed up now. Is the right surname for you now Collantine? Oh, you're muted. Still muted, Joanna. I see you nodding your head, but we don't hear you. There you go.
Wow, that took a while. I'm going to get my headphones, so I don't need to do that all the time. But yes,
Okay.
Colin is my maiden name.
Oh, okay, so you should be going by, well, what should we use?
Use Collantine. Yes, no, that's the correct name. Yeah.
Okay, we'll use Collantine. Okay, very good. And Andrew Shapiro is also here. Andrew gives me a wave. All right. Guess that'll work. All right. So I have I'm going slightly out of order, but I want everybody to welcome Tom Dugan. Is it Dugan or it's Dugan, right?
Duggan. Yep.
Man, I'm messing everything up today. All right. Well, Tom has got a lot of state government experience. And Tom, why don't you give yourself a little introduction for everybody briefly?
Sure. My name's Tom Duggan. I've lived here in North Andover for about 13 years. My wife is a townie. She grew up in town, went to Franklin and lived out on Johnson Street, and we moved back here about 13 years ago. I have 2 young boys who are going to Kittredge this year, and been to the Stevens Estate a couple of times, once for a tour with Joanna, and then in normal times we go up for the library's movie nights. So I'm excited to join the trustees and help move the state forward and really make it a destination and a facility that people in town really want to use and really want to go to. So thank you for having me as a member of the trustees. And as Dave said, my background is in state government. my last posting was as the Chief Administrative Officer for the Highway Division. And then I did a small stint in higher ed as the Vice President of Budget and Planning at a local college. And I'm taking the summer off to take care of my boys during the COVID epidemic.
All right. Well, thanks, Tom. Guess the next thing we should do is approve the June 24th, 2020 minutes that Jerry wrote up. Thank you, Jerry. Does anyone have a comment on that, or anybody have any corrections, comments, thoughts? Looks good to me.
So,
Go ahead,
so
Jerry.
a couple of things. I know, Robin, you had sent a note to include an amendment, which I haven't incorporated into this version, but I can make the amendment. I don't know if you want me to read it. But Robin thanked Jean for her offer to work in cooperation with Town Hall, producing the financials we need and the format in which we need them. Robin said beyond the purview of Board of Trustees to engage in that level of detail. Further stated, the forensic audit, an audit not performed by either trustee or Town Hall, would be more accepted by both sides as being independent and unbiased. So if that's correct, I'm happy to include that as an amendment, Robin, if that.
Oh, Robin, you're muted. There you go.
There you go.
Yeah, well, he just read what I wrote, so
Yep.
that's what I wrote.
Yeah,
Yes.
I'm saying that's what you want amended in. Yep.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, got it.
Anyone else have anything to add to that or subtract?
Only minor thing is my Irwin is with an I, not an E. Just so you know. But I
Okay.
think that's on the agenda, actually, not the meeting minutes.
Oh, you know what? That might have been me. Sorry about that.
Nobody, it happens
Turn,
all the time.
Dean. My
happens.
turn is next. I'm just waiting to see.
Okay. All right. So if someone would like to make a motion to approve the minutes as amended,
Yep, so I'll make the motion, Jerry, to approve the minutes from the June 24th board meeting with the amendment that Robin provided.
I'll second.
okay.
Robin Ellington second.
All right. Let's do a roll call vote. Dave Brown in favor. Jean?
Jean Irwin in favor.
Thomas?
In favor.
Robin?
Robin votes aye.
And Jerry?
I vote aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. That is done. Okay. Next, we would have my update, which I did not prepare a written statement because it's actually pretty simple. So I will just verbalize my thoughts here. I basically, most important, but certainly the next item on our agenda is an election of a new chairperson. So I want to keep this brief in any event. It's my opinion that we should be focused to a couple of things. We should mainly be focused as much as we can today on the retained earnings, because I'm very concerned about them. They're rather low. I think they need a lot of attention, and it's, as my understanding of what they mean, it's pretty critical. So to the extent that we can focus on that as much as possible tonight, I think that would be a good thing to do. We also have, and it's coming up, it's sort of buried in item 6, but we should spend a little time talking about the audit. And Thomas has got some very good information on that he'll share with us in a little while about a way we may be able to conduct that, get that to happen without it costing either the town or our board anything. One of the issues with our vote, we passed that last time. However, there's no, as the way it's written, I don't believe there's a way to actually carry it out because we don't have funds to appropriate. So, but you'll hear more from Tom about that later. Other than that, I guess I'd like to go on the record and thank Ellen Mosier for her service to the committee as chairman and before that. And I think she is probably going to participate later in the public input. And I think she would like to you know, give us her a statement. So but even if we do not hear from her, I just wanted to publicly thank her for her service.
Mr. Vice Chairman, I
Yes.
think that we should draft a letter
Ah,
thanking her so that she has some kind of public recognition and that we all have an opportunity to sign it and it's a public acknowledgement. And I would be happy to help
Okay.
draft that for you.
okay. I like that idea. I don't know. Do we need to vote on that?
I agree. I second it if we have to.
I don't know if we
I
have
don't
to,
think we
but-
have to, but I agree as well. So
Yeah, I don't think anyone would object to that. So Robin, thanks. If you
got
want
it.
to do that, it'd be
good
awesome.
idea. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So if all are satisfied, that is my update. Oh, well, actually, there's one more thing. I did have a meeting with Melissa on, I can't remember now if it was Thursday or Friday, but last week. And I did, we talked about two things primarily. I had a bunch of questions on the presentation she had made in March, just to A, refresh my memory, but B, there were a few things in there that I needed some clarifications on, and she gave them to me. It was great. And I really appreciated that. And hopefully I can bring that knowledge into the discussion we'll have later. But again, I was kind of focused in on the retained earnings piece of that. I want to make sure I understood it and understood what its real implications and meanings were. And then in the links materials for this meeting, I have both the June 30th statement, which everybody should understand is actually still an estimate. It doesn't get finalized until around July 20th, which actually is today. So it's getting finalized any day now, but it should be very close to the actual final retained earnings statement. And then she also provided me with, the year-to-date expenses and revenue from the Munis system. And that was also, I think I sent that out on Friday to everybody. And it's also a link in the agenda. So if anybody doesn't have it, they can get it that way. And that would be the link under item 7 here, if you need to go get it. And I think that is it for me. So any questions for me? Nope. Okay. So let's move on. Now we need to elect a new chairperson. I am interested in doing it, but I don't have to be the only one that runs. So I guess we should just go around or make sure that if anyone else is interested, that they put their name up and then we can vote.
Well, I would
So-
like to nominate you.
Well, thank you.
I would second that.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Is anyone else interested? Don't everybody raise your hands at the same time.
Oh, Dave, we're so lucky to have you.
Oh, if my wife were in the room. Well, anyway, she's not, so I guess I'm okay. All right. So then I guess we have a nomination. Thank you, Jean. And second, thank you. Go around the room. Who's in favor? You're either in favor or not in favor. Jean?
I am in favor.
Thank you. Thomas?
In favor.
Thank you. Robin?
I vote aye.
Aye. Jerry?
I vote aye as well.
So if I vote aye, it's unanimous.
Go for it.
All right, I'll vote aye. I'm new chairman. Thank you, everybody.
Congratulations.
Thank you. All right,
You'll
moving
do a
on.
great
Number.
job, Dave.
What's that?
I'm sure you'll do a great job. Congratulations.
Thank you, Joanne. All right. Next, we have review and discussion regarding any additional responses from our now world famous questions 1 through 23.
So Dave, before we do that,
Yep.
just a question.
Yes.
Do we need a vice chair?
Oh,
'Cause
that's
I
an
think
excellent.
you were in that role, but
Right.
I don't think
Can't have
you were,
both.
you were ever utilized. So I'm just,
Yeah.
I
Actually,
don't think it's a requirement per se, but
I don't believe
Uh,
so either, but a lot of boards do have them.
Mhm.
It's probably I think it's a good idea to have one. Andrew, is it a requirement? No, I didn't think so. But
Not a requirement.
yeah. but I'm all in favor of having one.
Can you have dual roles? Like, could Jerry be a vice chair and a secretary?
I don't see why not.
First one would be a do nothing, and the second one would do the minutes.
Gary might ask for a pay raise if you do that to him.
You know, just the other night I watched Hamilton on Disney Plus. I don't know if how many of you have seen it, but I had to laugh really hard when Aaron Burr, the new Vice President Thomas Jefferson, the scene in which he says, "I'm ready to be your partner, Mr. President." If you need a good laugh, go watch that. But anyhow,
It's a good one.
This vice chairman will have much more than Aaron Burr in terms of responsibility. We'll say that. I mean, I'd love to have one actually, and I think it could be Jerry if he wanted to do both, but it doesn't have to be. So would anyone like? I mean, Jerry,
So I can nominate myself, I guess.
Mhm.
You
Okay,
did it, so I can do it.
I'll second it.
I second for that. Yep.
Okay, Rob, and if anyone else is interested, please say so.
Speak up. Yeah.
Now, Thomas is shaking his head. No, Robin is smiling.
Still need to learn more.
You guys, Robin, Jean, you fine where you are?
Just fine, thank you.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess we should formally vote. I'm in favor of Jerry as vice chairman. Jean?
I'm in favor of Jerry as vice chairman.
Thomas?
In favor.
Robin?
In favor of Jerry as vice chairman.
And then Jerry, you can make it unanimous.
And in favor.
Okay. All right. It's the Dave and Jerry show. All right. Thank you, Jerry. All right. So now we can move on to the reports and inquiries, questions 1 through 23. So I guess first question, Jerry, has anything new come since June 20th?
No, nothing new has come.
Okay.
And just to recap for folks. So we've gotten what I consider a full response to question 1, which was transfer to capital. And I apologize again in the minutes, some of the PDF stuff didn't show up, but those responses were previously distributed back in May, June timeframe. So we got a response for 1. We've got a response for number 2, which obviously we're still discussing as it relates to the audit related aspect of that. And then we did get a response to question 9, which is the Compass cleaning contract. We got the contract, but some of the questions around the contract, there wasn't a response for that. And I'm happy to summarize what we have and, maybe more importantly, what we don't have, and include that in the minutes.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't think we need to spend too much more time on that as a general topic, but I think this is probably the time to discuss the audit a little bit. So for everyone's, to remind everyone, as a committee, we passed a resolution last time. Actually, Jerry, you should probably read it to be clear what was passed.
Yep, let me bring it up.
Yeah. It's in your minutes.
So yep. So this is Jerry. So the motion was made by Robin, seconded by Jean. Move that the Stevens Estate Board of Trustees conduct a formal forensic audit to thoroughly vet financial activities during the past 5 years, which would include identifying transfers to accounts such as transfer to capital, TTC, and other unknown or unidentified accounts, which explains the destination of revenue generated by the estate and any other financial anomalies and issues the trustees need to understand or have investigated. The purpose of this forensic audit would be to provide an accurate and complete financial position of the Steves estate for both the trustees and the residents of North Andover.
Okay. So, Thomas, or I keep calling you Thomas. I don't know. You know what it is? It's the H in your
Thomas.
name.
Yeah.
It just throws me off, and I want to say the whole name. Tom, you had a really good, I thought, a really good idea about this that you and I discussed. Would you mind sharing it?
Sure, no problem, Dave. Dave was very kind, and Robin as well, to kind of help onboard me a little bit late last week with understanding some of the materials and some of the information. And one thing that I thought of was, or suggested to Dave last week, was the Division of Local Services, which is part of the Department of Revenue, will do various types of audits and process reviews for municipalities. The state auditor will do that as well. And they generally come in and they'll partner with the town, they'll partner with a board or a committee to review the various, financial transactions, the process, compliance with the applicable laws and statutes of a town and charter. I personally used them in the past. One of my jobs was overseeing the Chapter 90 program. And so oftentimes we would have DLS help us with some process audits and looking at different things with municipalities. That was a way that I thought that either the committee, in partnership with Andrew, Joanna, and Melissa at Town Hall, can kind of revisit this question. I know from my conversations with Dave and Robin that there's a lot of history, in particular, a lot of history with the previous town manager about the estate and decisions that happened over the past 5 years. And this might be a way for the committee to have a impartial, independent review of the situation done.
And so Dave speaking, it sounded like, so the way I look at it is, right, as a board, we voted to do this. This seems like a good, or to me, this is my opinion, but it seems like the best possible way to kind of carry it out without impacting anyone financially, right? It's not going to be, does I understand it from Tom, this doesn't get charged to the town in any way.
I don't believe it does, no.
Yeah. I don't know, it could put all of this sort of detail to bed and behind us, which is, I think, what all of us want to do. So it struck me as a good way to resolve this sort of these open questions. And that way we can move on. And again, my opinion is, as a board of trustees, we should really be focused more on going forward, helping the estate succeed going forward and do the best that it can, and not spend a ton of our time digging through all history that really doesn't, well, at least once we're assured that everything is the way it's supposed to be, then we can sort of focus on the future. So that's what I like about it. So any, I don't know if we have to, thinking out loud, I would think we might have to vote this way to get this to happen, right? Because otherwise,
So we make a motion, you mean?
I think so.
Who
What was that, Jean?
I'm sorry, who was this through again?
Tom, the Department of...
I was thinking the Division of Local Services at DOR. They often partner with cities and towns on process and process reviews and different aspects of looking at governance and financial situations with boards and commissions, enterprise funds, things like that.
Yeah. I just have one question. Does that, from the town aspect of it, is that going to bring any
Shed light?
No, well, is that going to bring any undue or like negative kind of perception to have the Department of Revenue come in, or is it just a very normal thing that an operation for them to do?
I have a question. What about the bringing in the auditors who verified our accounting? and having them come in. You talked about that too, Tom, when we met, that it was an opportunity for the auditors to explain the practices, and it would shed light on why certain things happen the way they do. I could use a tutorial.
Yeah, certainly, Dave, if you're okay with me speaking for a couple of seconds, I think
Yeah,
there's,
please.
I think, I believe Powers and Sullivan is the town's auditor who audits the town. I believe, and I think this would have to go through Melissa, Andrew, the opportunity for them to come in and speak to the board about the enterprise fund and the audits they've done over the past. I think they've been our auditor for years now, like at least 5 or 6 years. But they could potentially come into the board and explain to them the process they go through and the structure of the fund and what they're looking for as an opportunity for us to get some further information. Again, they're independent. They stand alone from the town and provide an opinion. To your question, Gene, about DLS, I don't know with DOR. I mean, I know in my previous experience, we would do audits with the state auditor, and some of them would be process audits, and we had our own internal auditor at my agency. Most of the time, these weren't looking for waste, fraud, or abuse. They were mostly just trying to figure out how do we improve services or think about how do we improve, accountability or transparency around different decision making and things like that. But I think that's a question that would have to be brought back by Andrew and Joanna to Melissa. But I know in my experience, DLS does do these types of process audits with cities and towns pretty routinely, and works with communities to kind of improve the governance of a town.
The one thing I can say about Powers and Sullivan, I mean, I've been through those audits year to year. So unless we're asking them to do a specific audit for our enterprise fund, separate from the annual audit that they do, I mean, they're just going to review what their normal annual audit is, and it's not a deep dive into what we want. Quite honestly, I was very much on the fence of doing the forensic audit. I mean, if you remember the last meeting, I was arguing against it. I was very much on the fence of actually doing it because I think, with cooperation, I think we could kind of figure it out. However, I mean, if we can somehow figure it out another way through DOR, I'm all for it. But I just want to make sure, again, we're not bringing in some kind of unwanted magnifying glass onto the town, and making enemies. Melissa's been very, very gracious with us.
Yes.
And I truly don't want to spoil that relationship. And I think with the forensic audit, that's on the verge of doing it. And then bringing in the Department of Revenue, I don't know if that will. I've never worked with them. Maybe having Powers and Sullivan come in and doing a specific audit for us or answering our questions specifically may be a better route to go, since it is the town's thing, but not just reviewing the audit that they've already done because it's too generalized. It's not what we want.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment at this point?
Absolutely, please.
I'll just quickly say, I talked to the town manager about this today, and I just to kind of allay some of the concerns that Gene seems to be expressing about the potential scrutiny that a DLS audit or a cooperative investigation or whatever, however you want to term it, might bring. Without committing, Melissa seemed very receptive to it, and I know she was going to be in contact or try to be in contact with someone from DLS today. So I haven't heard the results of reaching out or her contact, so that remains to be seen. But I know there's a willingness on her part to go that route that Mr. Duggan described. So I don't think it would come off as unwelcome. And if for some reason the town or Melissa decides it's not in the best interest, I'm sure she'll make that known and explain why. And then as far as the, bringing in the Powers and Sullivan auditors, I don't want to commit to that either, but I have heard just offhand in conversations in the past that I think there is a willingness to make them available to you as a board to discuss with them the audits that they do, which I understand what Gina's saying, how they're what they currently do is a little bit broader than what you're looking to get into, but they can certainly make themselves available, I believe, via the town to answer questions or describe the process they undergo when they do their annual audit.
I have a question, Andrew. Would it be possible then for us to formulate questions in preparation, as a board, come up with those questions, those specific questions that we want to ask those auditors, and they would come back and be prepared with those answers? I know when I go to see Block Advisors to have my taxes done every year, I pay them a shitload of money, but I have access to that person throughout the year to answer whatever financial question I have. So is that the case with the auditors for the town?
Yeah, in a manner of speaking, we pay
Sorry.
them that amount of money that you were describing. I won't use the term you used, but so they're definitely going to be available to us to answer questions. And I think that your approach is good. I think coming up with some questions to ask ahead of time, getting those questions to them ahead of time, would probably make for a more productive conversation.
Yeah.
For all of you, for everyone involved, and it would probably cut down on the amount of time they'd have to spend actually interacting with you, just in terms of time and efficiency. So I think that's a good approach.
All right.
So this is
Excellent.
Jerry.
Go ahead, Jerry.
So let me just get some clarification. So I've heard kind of two things. One is, Robin, you're looking for, and I'm sure we could all use a bit of kind of an overview of what Powers and Sullivan does in their annual audit from an education. Yep, go ahead.
Especially in regard to enterprise accounts, because we're
Okay,
different.
fair enough.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, so that I agree with that, to having a kind of general overview how they approach it. What I wouldn't want to do is essentially have two forensic audits where we generate questions for Powers and Sullivan around, maybe it's a lot of what we have in questions 1 through 23, whatever, and we're going to potentially engage Department of Revenue auditors as well. So I think I'm in agreement with having Powers and Sullivan speak specifically to what do they do on an annual basis relating to evaluating enterprise funds. And then certainly if Melissa's open to it, Thomas's suggestion of really pursuing, I don't know how you go about doing that, but pursuing the Department of Revenue angle to do a deeper dive, which is really ultimately the motion that we passed at last meeting, what we're looking for. So
yeah. And if Chair, if I could speak for 1 second.
Please.
I think, as the brand new member in the room, I kind of agree with Jean that the concept of an audit and things like that, reading the minutes and looking back through things, I'm very much on that fence about suggesting DLS or DOR. But as you said, Dave, that there seems to be a lot of history here. There seems to be a lot of things that happened in the past and things that maybe raise questions with prior board members and things like that. And I think that maybe taking a two-step approach is potentially the way to go, right? So to Robin's point, we can formulate some questions based on the information that Powers and Sullivan may be able to get into, and may be able to answer some of those specifics for us. And then I think if Andrew and Joanna and the town manager are open to it, then engaging DLS to have that kind of deeper dive occur with them. So maybe it's a two-step process where we're formulating that, but the goal would be, I think, I agree with you, Dave, that we want to figure this out, but put it behind us so that we can kind of focus on the future, because we're all relatively new and kind of move forward and make sure it's being done right going forward, notwithstanding. And Melissa's a tremendous partner. She's been a great town manager for her first few months here, and I think we really want to partner with her and Andrew and Joanna to see the estate grow and kind of walk away from whatever happened in the past.
Absolutely. So I think if I could summarize for what I gather we're saying, and I think we all like it, but we'll shortly find out. Maybe we do this in 2 steps. We begin with inviting Powers and Sullivan in, A, to educate us about what they currently do, and then B, to answer a set of specific questions that we draft. And perhaps at that point, we have all the information we need and we don't even need to take the next step. But if there are things missing and we're still not comfortable, then we can take the next step. Hopefully, it sounds like Melissa, Andrew, et cetera, will all be okay with that. So not summarizing it very well, but I think that's, I guess, direction that I think we should take.
May I speak?
Yes, please.
Having been through many of the state audits on the town end, I know what they consist of, and I know it's not the information that we want. So if you want to do what Robin said and formulate very specific questions for them to answer, that's fine. But I think regardless, we're going to need the deep dive. So whether it's Powers and Sullivan that we get to do the deep dive, or whether it's the Department of Revenue that we get to do the deep dive, one of them has to do it. I just don't want to prolong it that we're going to ask Powers and Sullivan, okay, what is it that you do annually? Because I can tell you right now, it's very broad because there's so many funds and so many accounts and so many things that they look at on like a global aspect for the town, and that it doesn't get into the minutia that we are in and looking at. So I just don't want to waste that time. So I mean, I would personally would either like to say to Powers and Sullivan, we want you to specifically look at our account, or if you go to the Department of Revenue, do one either or. That's just my suggestion.
All right.
This is Jerry.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think that summarized it better than what I was trying to say.
I think me too. I agree.
It's a parallel path, not a sequential path. Parallel in that we can still have Powers and Sullivan kind of educate us on what they do, but the deep dive really needs to be done by the Department of Revenue or somebody other than Powers and Sullivan to do what we call the forensic audit. So
may I make a suggestion then?
Yes.
Dave, would you like to approach Melissa and ask her maybe which one either she prefers or more comfortable with, or I don't, or do we want to make that choice?
I would love to do that. I think that's the right way to approach it, because we do want to continue the spirit of cooperation and support that we're trying to establish. So I would prefer that approach, to have a conversation with Melissa and ask her, tell her that, we want to put this whole question 1 to 23 thing behind us. We do have on our record, we have a move to have some kind of audit. We sort of feel as a committee we could do it one of 2 ways. Which way are you more comfortable with? And we are concerned with not bringing any. We don't. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe as a committee we don't want to bring any negative connotations to the town through this action. So,
however, all the while we do want to drive the train as far as getting the questions we want asked, answered. Yes,
efficient.
So we would like to drive the train of the audit.
All right. Does somebody want to try to make a motion around that?
I would like to make a motion.
Thanks.
And Dave approached the town manager and asked her preferred method of a deep dive audit, whether it's Powers and Sullivan or the Department of Revenue, in which our committee can drive an audit to look at the last 5 years.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second, this Jerry. Whoop.
Okay. Question, Gene, would it be even better to specify the anything in that set of questions 1 to 23 as the heart of the matter here, or is it good enough to just leave it the way you already said it?
I think that we're going to have probably more questions along the way.
Okay.
You know,
Yes, Robin.
If we could just identify 2 people from the board who are going to steer this procedure so that they're accountable for it and it's a subcommittee.
Okay.
that's a good idea.
Yeah. So a friendly amendment to to Jean's
Yeah.
motion. Okay. I'm thinking that well, should Gina, would you like to be one of those?
Yes.
Okay. Um,
I don't mind volunteering either, Chair.
okay.
Tom.
All right, that would probably be good. Yes, get Tom right involved right away. Jerry, you good with that?
Yep.
Yep. Okay, Robin, good with that? Good. Okay.
Aye.
All right. So Jean, do you accept that amendment then with those 2 people
Yes.
on the hook?
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Any further discussion on that motion? Okay, let's do a roll call. Jean? Favor?
Yes, I approve.
Okay. Robin?
I approve.
Okay. Jerry?
Yep. I approve.
And Tom?
Aye.
Okay, and Dave also votes aye. It's passed. Congratulations, Audit Committee. It's your new name. Okay. Do we, I guess, as far as I'm concerned, I think we're done with item 6 then on our agenda. Does anyone disagree? This is the review of questions 1 through 23.
One small comment, and maybe Andrew, you could ask the town manager about this. Sometimes PDFs are a little bit hard to manipulate, so that if going forward, especially where there's things that are native to Excel, if the town accountant could kind of transmit them in their native format. I think sometimes I've struggled a little bit. The information I've gotten as a new member is awesome, but there's a lot of documents that are a little bit hard to manipulate. So going forward, if we can kind of do that, it might be helpful, just from a formatting point of view.
Yeah,
So I'm happy to pass that along.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion on item 6? Okay, hearing none. Time to look at retained earnings. And I think I will try. Is there a way for me to put something up on the screen here? I think there is. Present now. Yeah. All right. Give me a second, folks. I'll try to do that. My computer will cooperate. Come on. Present a window. Okay. I'm getting there. Let's see. Bear with me a minute, guys. Sorry. My filing system. You can hear a lot of scrolling. Okay, here we go. We're getting there. Here we go. Okay. Everybody see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
Forget.
Yeah. All right. I made it as big as I can. So I wanted to just review this with everybody based on my meeting with Melissa. Uh, this number down here on the bottom right, I can't help it. I have experience as a commercial general manager. And I mean, one thing you always worry about when you're running a business is how much money do you have in your checking account and how much money do you have in your savings account? And this essentially represents that for us. And I think this is my opinion, but I think the single most important thing for us to do is focus on getting this number down here, this 96,542, to be as large as we can make it going forward, right? In other words, to run a business here that is healthy. And obviously we face a lot of challenges at the moment, but that's where I really think our focus as a board should be in helping Joanna obtain that. What would be this? Oh, by the way, this is a draft, right? Because this was prepared as of June 30th, 2020, right? At the end of the fiscal year 2020. And it'll be finalized shortly, but I don't think it'll change materially from what we see here. So I wanted to just spend a few minutes talking about this. I know that I think Jean probably wants to make a comment about this, that this would be a good time to do that. But Jean, before I open up your mic, when we go into Joanna's report later about the upcoming year, I think we should all keep this. This is really our best metric for how healthy we are, in my opinion. So with that, let's go around. I'd like to actually go around and get everybody's comments on this. But Jean, I know you had one specific thing you wanted to talk about here. So why don't you go first?
Just a couple notes. I noticed in the expenses, when you looked at the attachments that you sent us, the actual expenses that came in where, when I move my cursor, can you see where I'm moving it?
No, because it's you would have to be the presenter, I think, for that. Yeah. But tell me where to point, and I'll point.
Under expenses, under salaries, and then expenses, and then you go over to where it says 130,033.
Yeah, right there. Yep.
The actual total that came in for the year was 116,000. So that actually brings another $14,000 to the bottom line. So off the sheets that you gave us.
Oh, the other sheets. Yes.
So that's another 14,000, just so you know.
Okay.
And what I would like, and I'm hoping Andrew, or maybe if you want to go back to Melissa, to Dave, and ask them, I'd like to know the indirect funds. If you look at that line from FY15 to now, then the numbers almost virtually doubled. I mean, it's and I'd like to get a real good breakdown. I know when Melissa met with us, excuse me, she said she was going to reevaluate that this year, and she said that she actually does that every year. But she had just come in, she's just come into the town, but she does that as an estimate. But I mean, for that to go from 47,000 to 50,000, and then a huge jump from 17 to 18, from 50,000 to 77,000, and now we're up to 81,000. I'd like to know what that number is comprised of, because most of our utilities, facilities, everything else is in that 130,000 number that's above it, which is actually 116 at this point. So, even in our salaries, I do believe Joanna's insurance cost, Humara, Joanna, and whoever, I think that's its salary line. And I think the AP person is probably even included in that. So I'd like to know a breakdown of that indirect expenses.
Yeah, Joanna wants to talk.
I don't want to interrupt Eugene, but I've actually got some more current numbers in it's based on the same information in Munis, but it's some more updated numbers. So while we still have that on my screen, I can kind of jump to that and just fill you in on the details that I have, that I that I calculated today, and then jump back to you. Is that what you'd like to
Okay.
see or not?
Let me just go through the things, and then like Dave says.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
All right. All right. So that I question if that could bring more money down to the bottom line, but I do know that we have 14,000 in that one line of expenses. Also, do we? I understand that they have the retained earnings. They pooled them in the general fund, and I'm wondering if in the general fund is there a specific account code for Stevens Estate? Like,
So Andrew can probably answer that. If
is that broken out in the general fund? Like, is it tracked? Like, is at any point can we look at in the pooled? No, it's not.
I don't believe that it is. I believe all the, and I'm kind of I'm one of the worst people in town to try to explain this to you folks, so I apologize. But it's, and I'm sure, either if we wanted to get a detailed memo from Melissa or have her come explain that to people. But, essentially the town holds a bunch of accounts from which it draws. So there's sort of a separate sort of accounting, is my understanding, of the Stevens Estate ledger, but it's not all worked from one specific account. So.
But is that the question you're asking, Gene? I think what Gene is asking is there a way to look in Munis and sort of see our ledger, for lack of a better word? Right, there must be. I would think there have to be. No?
I mean, I did send Gene, I believe, basically a running tabulation through Munis of sort of all expenses and all revenue that was taken in by the town, I think over the last 3 fiscal years, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
So there is to that extent.
I do have that, but then we were also told that all of the previous retained earnings were put into, I think you wrote me the email, Andrew, that they were put into the general fund in a pooled account, correct? So I'm wondering if it is tracked by the Stevens Estate in that pooled account. Like, I would think each fund would you'd have to have some kind of running balance, just as we have on the bottom, the 95. I'm just wondering if we may or may not.
I can't say for sure.
Okay, that's fine.
One quick thing I'll just quickly mention. I'm not trying to divert from that specific question, but you asked also what the breakdown of the indirect costs were, and I just provided a link in your chat to a document that's publicly available under the Stevens Estate Documents folder. So, and it is a breakdown of this fiscal year's indirect costs for each enterprise fund. And so you'll see in there's a breakdown of the indirect costs for the Stevens Estate as well.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So Gene, just a question on the back up to the expenses, the 130.33. It's noted there that it includes the end of year encumbrances, which are expenses, commitments, basically contractual commitments that haven't come in yet. So I would think that might explain why there's a delta between the munis
Oh, you're right. Okay.
report and the commitments, basically, and that's probably an area that gap is probably one that's going to get closed
Building the
once
and licensing. Yeah.
once things close out.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other comment around the indirect costs, because I looked into this a little bit. If you look at the budget documents going back as far as you want to go, it's an allocation. So there's the indirect cost. My understanding is it's an allocation based on number of FTEs within that group. So Stevens Estate, you can see exactly how many FTEs they used for that calculation kind of over time. And obviously as the town gets bigger and more complex, there's more costs, shared costs that get spread around. Anyway, so that's a partial explanation in addition to what Andrew had sent of why the indirect costs are that way.
I just want to make one other comment, if I might, Mr. Chair.
Absolutely.
just in regards to the indirect costs, and if I don't know if anybody had an opportunity to open a document that I shared, but you'll note that like even on the first page, it just gives you a very broad overview of the breakdown, showing, you know, it's going to insurances, retirements, allocations from other departments, and it totals $130,308. But the charge to the Stevens estate for indirect costs was $81,286, as is noted in your retained earnings statement there. So that is just another way of saying that essentially as much as some folks might be disenchanted by the amount that is being charged to the Stevens estate, it is lower than what the auditors would recommend, or I don't know if it's the auditors, but the formula that we are given to compute the indirect cost figure is we're charging less than what we arrive at for that formula.
Do you,
So just something to keep in mind.
yeah, I appreciate that, Andrew. Do you happen to have any insight though into why there was, I mean, I assume that would track backwards too. I think what Gene was just curious about was it seemed to take a big leap one year, and so even if these numbers are really lower than they should be across the board, that would still be a leap. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. I can't speak to what the quote unquote leap would be attributable to. You know, so I'd have to kind of get the equivalent statement that I provided you, sort of the breakdown of the indirect costs from fiscal years, you know, 17, 18, 16 to really understand that or look at that. And then I guess the follow-up question be, you know, you'll see obviously large, you know, higher numbers going up in subsequent fiscal years. The question then becomes why, and I don't know that I have a ready answer for that either. And then, you know, the other thing I'll just quickly mention to cap it off is I think the committee or the board knows this, the trustees know this, is that the town is not charging the Stevens estate in the current FY21 budget that we've just started any indirect costs. So you've taken a nosedive to zero.
I have a question. I'm
Go ahead.
wondering how the FY20 budget for salaries is arrived at. It's a rather large number, $173,000. And I would say for the duration of the year, it was pretty much Joanna at the Stevens estate. So how is that number created?
You know, I'll let Joanna answer that. Go ahead, Joanna.
Excellent.
Oh, thank you. So that basically the budget was put together for FY20 in the winter of 2018 to the beginning of 2019 calendar year. So at that point, I already had my full-time bar and event manager, and I projected it out to the next year, which was FY20. So it was included in the budget.
Okay, and so the billings, I mean, the salaries only amounted to $106,000?
Yes.
So that's a savings of 130, excuse me.
Yeah.
That's a savings of, oh God, I can't even do the
I
math.
got it, Robin.
$67,000.
Yeah, basically our operating expenses and our salaries at the end of FY20, we were at 66% of budget.
So
Saving over $130,000 in the last fiscal year.
Kind of
And
a
I
good
just
news.
want to make one comment here for the purpose of the minutes. A little bit of background information here, that there was a moratorium between April of 2019 and October of 2019, which put a stop to all sales, which means there were no revenues coming in for that 6-month period. And that's why you see this dip. It wasn't anything that the Stevens estate didn't do. It was what they were told not to do,
Right.
is book new events.
I'm sorry, can you, so this is Tom, if I may, Chairman.
Go ahead.
I kind of have Gene's concern in going through all these things, and I think maybe as we kind of explore the budget, the document that Andrew shared, I was just glancing through it. It's helpful, but it also seems to be a little bit dated. There's references to FY16 calculations, you know, FY 2000 calculations. So I think it would be helpful for us to kind of unpack with Joanna and the town manager and other folks what those actual, you know,
the health insurance is 39,000,
Yeah.
2.3 employees.
Because I think an indirect cost is actually appropriate. It's absolutely appropriate for things like the health
Right.
and welfare benefits of the staff. If there's indirect charges associated with the audit or other staff time, I think that's absolutely appropriate. But
Agreed.
I also agree with, if you look back at the history of this, the enterprise fund going back to 2001, especially prior to you coming, Andrew, and the new town manager, there's some what I call lumpiness of that indirect charge a lot. You know, it kind of went up, it went down, it dipped, and I'm used to seeing in government budgeting and a little bit more stability in your indirect rates. You know, it's something a little bit more stable. Whereas I see that same jump that Jean brought up, that you go from 48 and 50 to 77. That's either something, there's something there that happened that caused that to shift. Either we weren't getting assessed properly in the past or something else. So I think if we could collectively break down that indirect, I think it's fair and appropriate. I'm just saying it's fair and appropriate to pay an indirect, but it would be helpful for me to understand that. And then I'd like to come back to Robin's comment, because this, Chairman, was one of the questions I had in going through all the materials. Is the estate was on a really awesome trajectory, right? For 16, 17, 18, all the way up to 19, right? You had great revenue growth, solid revenue growth. You had costs that were, we'll get to utilities in a minute, but your costs seem to be on track. You're beating your budget every year. But then there's a wall that you seem to hit on revenue in 19. And I didn't really quite understand, as we think about 20, you know, my question was what happened in 19 with the revenues, because you were on such a great trajectory, and then there was it kind of just hits a wall. I get 20 is off because of COVID response.
Yeah, I can, if you'd like, I can
Yeah.
answer that. So basically the business booked for FY19 would have been booked in FY18. So the calendar year of 2018 was the year when I was finally given my new staff. So I had a new full-time bar and event manager brought on, and a new part-time event manager. Just through the nature of what we were doing, I was forced to hire somebody right in the middle of the season. She didn't have a lot of experience, so I put the sales aspect onto my other event manager, who was more mature and consistently was able to manage the inquiries. But that also meant me not doing any sales. So I know my conversion rate in the past has always been high. I booked all of the events and I did all the tours from 16, 17, and 18 until the summer of 2018, when I always say my new event managers were chasing me around like little ducklings, and I basically was so focused on the success of the events that even though I had the extra staff, I wasn't able to focus on the sales.
Joanna, can I have a comment, please?
Yes, absolutely.
Also, FY19, if you think about that, that's actually 18-19.
Yeah.
That's the year of 18-19. So that's when they're coming off their moratorium, and anything that they
Right.
book in the second half of 18 would have been done in the spring of 18. So
Right.
that's why, I mean, they couldn't do anything because their hands were tied. So that whole year, you know, basically is a wash. People plan well ahead
So
to have events. So
I'm
it
sorry,
really
Jean.
hit that year.
I'm sorry, Jean. Can you explain to me the concept, or someone can explain to me the concept of the moratorium? Because I'm not familiar with what that means.
That would have to be Joanna.
Okay.
Yeah. This is old
Okay,
news
so
for all the rest of us, but go ahead.
I'll try
Joanna.
and be
You're
quick.
asking obvious questions. I'm just
It was
new.
it was an interesting time. So first of all, in March 2019, it was the former town manager who, along with the Board of Selectmen, decided that we were going to put the estate out to bid, and maybe there was an interest from a prospective buyer at that time. The board was kind of flabbergasted March 2019, but after that time, from that moment on, there seemed to be a lot of talk, a lot of conversations. Then we had Elegant Banquets come in, and then they did a rendering, and then we had town meeting. And So the town meeting, it was supposed to start in May. The regular town meeting was in May of last year. The moratorium was put on at the beginning of April because the town had already decided that we weren't going to be dealing with it after the sale or the lease, which was kind of short-sighted, but it's not my
Explain the
decision.
moratorium.
But the moratorium was started in April because of that, because that was their solution. It ended up going to the special town meeting in June, and then everybody voted against doing anything with it. So it was kept on a moratorium. I did request at numerous occasions, why do we still have a moratorium in place? But it was in place until September of that year. So the main booking season for our weddings for 2020 was basically locked away.
Okay, can I ask this question in a different way, because I want to be really specific, because I think
Yeah.
as we go from transitioning from the past to the future, I think part of what we really need to think about is resetting the narrative that's out there about the estate and things like that.
Right.
As a resident of town, I went to both those town meetings, about the estate and the regular town meeting. So this is the first I've heard of a moratorium. So there was a decision by the Board of Selectmen and/or the town manager to stop bookings at the estate,
Yeah.
April of 2019.
and who made that decision?
It was the interim town manager who was new in her position at that time, so maybe it was, I don't know. I can't.
Well, I think
suppose.
wasn't the Board of Selectmen, if I'm not mistaken, the Board of Selectmen are the ones who created the moratorium, right?
Yes, it had to be the Board of Selectmen. Yes,
Yeah.
they would be the only ones that had authority to do
And
that, I
then,
would think.
yeah, so if I'm not mistaken, Tom, what happened is the Board of Selectmen, as Joanna stated earlier, had put out, basically had, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but they are the ones who put the moratorium in place where bookings were not allowed. So the bottom line here is there was a 6-month period where Joanna could not book events. And you see the result of that in the FY 19 numbers, and partially in
And
the
FY 20, because
Yeah.
that was the booking for this year.
right.
And as a
And then at special, just to summarize, a special town meeting, the Board of Selectmen asked for the town's input on this, essentially by putting an article in there, and the articles were defeated.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I remember that part. Yep.
Yeah. And then the moratorium subsequently was lifted.
Okay.
And then lucky us, we had COVID-19 come in right on the heels of that.
As a result of that, though, a lot of negative press and social media, came out around that. As a matter of fact, Andrew just posted an article in the chat, but a lot of negative press came out around that. So, brides hear that, and or that word gets around, and so Joanna is excellent on sales, and I think left to her own devices, and left to a typical year without a moratorium, without restrictions, and been able to run that place without COVID. I think it not only would it be self-sustaining, it would be flourishing. But we just need to have the chance to let it run.
The article I posted, I just want to quickly say, it just confirms that the moratorium was voted on in April of 2019, and it was a vote by the Board of Selectmen. So I just want to make sure people were on the record about, who initiated that. And I'll just quickly kind of back up what Jean was saying in terms of Joanna's, abilities. I think she is a very good salesperson. I think she's strong on that, and we appreciate her efforts.
Yeah,
Right.
and from my perspective, that's why I was a little bit shocked, right, Andrew? And I think that's where, looking through the records, there is such a strong revenue stream occurring in those fiscal years that with Joanna's leadership and on the ground. And you see it in the events numbers, you see it in the events numbers, you see it in the event revenue. So there was a really strong trajectory of revenue that was occurring from sales at the estates and events. And again, from a cost perspective, you were beating your budget every year. So your OpEx was coming in lower than anticipated. I mean, we can have a separate conversation at some point about, I think the nature of the building, it's old, and the, bunker fuel's expensive and things like that, things you can't really do control over, right? But I think on those areas that you were able to control, you saw a very good revenue curve that was accelerating up. You saw a bend of the expense curve where you could control it. So you were able to post those larger expenses and put it back into the retained earnings or the reserve account for future capital and development. So it for me, being brand new, right? You see this cliff in 19, but then you see the cliff in 20, which no one can control for with COVID, right? So that shouldn't reflect on Joanna's leadership or your leadership or anyone else's leadership of the estate, because no one could control that. But I was trying to figure out what happened in 19.
All right.
Yeah.
So hopefully, Tom, you've got what you need there. And if you need more, we can always offline pursue that. Okay. Just trying to be mindful of our clock here, as it's already almost 6:15, and I hope we would be done by 6:30. We may go a little bit longer than that. But before we close out item 6 and this discussion on retained earnings and move to the future, anyone else want to discuss this further?
I think we're closing out item 7, aren't we?
Oh, are we at 7? Okay, good. Any further discussion on item 6 on the agenda then? Okay, hearing none. Thank you everybody for that. Now we're going to turn it over to Joanna and Jerry to go over our current P&L, and then also, well, yeah, I guess first we'll do the P&L, then we have marketing, then we have the operations report from Joanna. So Jerry, you want to take over?
Yeah, so Joanna, do you want to show your spreadsheet that was part of the minutes? And we'll just focus on fiscal 21.
And then for Tom's benefit, while John is bringing that up, back a few months ago, Jerry and I, kind of as the finance subcommittee here, or whatever you want to call it, we asked Joanna to start kind of producing more of a traditional kind of corporate P&L report as a little bit better tool for us as a board to look at rather than just bookings reports.
Yeah.
So, Joanna, we don't hear you. I don't know why. You're muted. But
I'm on mute, but I'm just looking for my for the document. Hold on.
Okay.
I usually have them ready to go, and I don't today.
I might actually have it pulled up already. Let's see.
It's in my trustees. 2020. Okay. All right, so here we go. I've got it, and I'm just going to start sharing now. Present now. Okay, can everybody see this?
It's coming.
Here it is.
I'm going to try and hide all the extra stuff. So this is so this is actually what Jerry and David and I have been working on over the last few months, and basically it outlines.
There it is. Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Got it. So basically it outlined our projections moving forward for the next year, or which is this year starting now. So originally, when we were in FY20, the projections were put in based on historical projections for FY21. But now for July, since we're already into FY21, I've highlighted the 2 columns here for the first and second quarter, and that's our actual revenue based on the events that we've got coming in and that are on the books right now. So revenue projection right now is 30,300 based on the events that I've already booked with the deposits that have come in. We've got, I'll give you a little bit more detail on the new business that we've booked since the last meeting.
So, yeah.
So looking down here, I've got the indirect expenses and the direct expenses broken out. Hang on. Something's not calculating here right now.
So let me just let me
Wanna
take
jump in,
let me
Malone?
take a
Yeah.
pause. Because unfortunately we didn't have time to take Joanna's information, the projection, which is a forecast,
Right.
Yeah.
and put it in the template that we've used to show this kind of information. But I think to simplify and get to the bottom line. So basically the last time that we projected was at the end of May or middle of May. And we're projecting 66 events in total for the year. And now, Joanna, in this update, you're showing 56 events.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we've gone
And
down. Yeah. So we've gone down from, I'll say, kind of in April 1st, when we looked at it in relation to the budget, we had, I think, roughly 76 events.
Yeah.
In middle of May, we went to 66 events, and now we're down to 56 events. So what I don't understand is, say, between May and now, when we're starting to open up a little bit, there's bookings, was a lot of interest that was generated, as you described in prior meetings. I guess what's driving the forecast now down?
so instead
Say
of
another 10 events in total, I'll say.
Yeah. So if you think about it, back in April and May, COVID-19 was brand new to us. So we didn't know back then that we were basing our projections for FY21 on historical projections only.
That's not the case. We adjusted it based on a certain percent reduction based on
Oh
COVID.
yeah. So by May's by May's meeting, we had adjusted it down. The reason why it is adjusted down further is because we're now into the fiscal year, and the highlighted in yellow is basically the events that we've actually got in our pipeline right now. But it doesn't mean that these are the only events that we've got running that we are going to book between now and the end of the year. We've got so many inquiries coming in that I can feasibly see this that $30,000 for this quarter, or maybe not this quarter because that ends in September, but I can see up the second quarter's revenues increasing significantly as we build some more short-term events.
Yeah,
So basically,
yeah.
it's a new situation. I did take out the projections based on 80% that we had done in May, Jerry, that you had asked me to do, but instead of, it was difficult to put together those projections with where I see we are at on the 20th of July. So this is more accurately representing what we do have on the books, but it doesn't mean we won't book any more events.
So I think so this is Jerry again. I think we're confusing again actuals versus forecast.
Yeah. Yes.
So
And
Jerry,
given that we're just in July,
yeah.
What we use and again, the template that we have shows forecast kind of over time as we've adjusted. And once we have actuals, say for July, then we'll start based on the Munis report. We'll be able to populate those actuals in the table. So I think we could kind of take this offline, and certainly Dave, as the new chair, I really like to get some feedback on how we want to show this information, because quite honestly, I find myself kind of 6 months into it. I don't know how others people, and
Me
we're still
too.
not quite where we need to be with being able to forecast
Right. Yes.
the revenues.
Yeah.
So Jerry, the document that you sent out on Friday is accurate with those projections. the document that you sent to me, the only adjustments I have made are the real-time adjustments in the yellow highlighted areas. So if you want to show that document instead, that will relate to our original concept for this document. I seem like I'm trying to
Yeah.
screw it up and I'm not. So I
Yeah.
created a new document with our actuals because that is very helpful to me to know where we stand. But yes,
Right. I think, can I make a comment here? I
Yeah.
think where Jerry and I are going is we would like to see a separate forecast, right? That's just a forecast. And then you adjust it as you learn more, right? But if you mix the forecast and the actuals together, you get confused. We're all
Yeah.
getting confused,
yeah.
right? So I think it would be better. I mean, actually, maybe what you just suggested, John, is a good idea, Jerry. If
Two
it's hand,
separate pieces. Yeah.
can you show the document she's talking about?
I can give it a
I'll stop
try.
presenting
Yeah.
and then you can present.
So I
them.
think what would be more effective every month is to say, okay, last time, actually, we probably should, yeah, I guess we could do it monthly or quarterly anyway. Here's the current quarter. Basically present a little simplified, a much more simplified version of that. That's just sort of the highest level numbers. And it shows, well, Jerry's going to show it in a minute, hopefully.
Yeah.
I'm not good with sharing in this forum. I'm good with sharing in general, but
But right, I think we still have a little ways to go to get to where we're trying to get, which is to have a simplified view of what you're forecasting, how that changed from the prior month, up or down, gets better, it gets worse, whatever. And then the current, yeah, here we
is
go.
it coming?
There we go.
Yep.
Yeah, we got it.
Okay. So as I said, we didn't have time to add in basically a column for revised forecast, June 20th or July 20th. But this is a template that we showed back in May, and it shows the 66 events, as of May. And just to go down to the assumptions, here's the assumptions and the changes that got made. So it's essentially kind of a running tally. Really, all I was doing was focused on. In May, we had 66 events, and now in the template that Joanna's just showing it's 56 events.
So
And some of that might be kind of, again, commingling actuals with forecast, but
Yeah. We need to be on one page.
Yep.
Joanna, but
Yeah.
looking at this briefly, I mean, you probably have a pretty good feel for, what you were anticipating each quarter, right?
Yeah.
And do you see, just anecdotally, if it can't be precise, but looking at this, is that 66 really shrunk?
Well, no, basically, let's see.
Maybe
Because it's
focused on
based,
this column over here.
yeah. So basically, if we look at weddings, so that was done in May.
Right. So another way of asking the question would be this, right?
Since May, we did actually postpone some of our July and August and September weddings. So they've been pushed off to next year.
Okay, so that would explain part of why the 66 would shrink.
Yep.
Is that things that you had on this? Do you see where I'm going with this?
Next,
Right?
Yeah. So big.
Next fiscal year.
Yeah.
Is it next fiscal year or is it the first half of 2021?
Yes, it depends when their rebook date is. There's a couple in this fiscal year. There's a couple that moved over to FY22.
Okay, but as Dave said, that would explain some of the differences.
Yeah.
So.
All right.
So I think by this point we've unraveled all of the events that we should have held, and they have now been moved to their new situation. So yes, that the new date. So that would account for a lot of that discrepancy. But yes, it's still I'm going to go back and look at the first two quarters again and update them per what you requested me to do originally, and we'll see what the difference is there between my actuals and the original projections.
Okay, so this would be the format that I feel like we'd like to manage to going forward, is to see it presented this way, and you can see each time, each month or so that we review it, you note any changes from the prior version.
Right.
Hopefully the changes are always not in the wrong direction, right? Sometimes they're going to be in the up direction, right? Oh, I booked 10 new things for Q4. Fabulous. That will show up here. That I think this is a better management tool. Okay. So, we were not going to get precision tonight, I think, unfortunately, on this, but the 66 has probably shrunk some because of reschedules. Hopefully it hasn't shrunk 10, but it is what it is. All right. Jerry, do you want to, think that's good enough for now, or do you want to?
Yeah, no, that's good enough for now. Yep.
Okay. All right. So next I have, so that's item 8. So next I have a marketing committee update from Robin. Oh, Robin, unmute yourself. You're still on mute. You know. Okay, sorry.
Okay.
There you are.
So I am going to present now my entire screen,
Okay.
and I'm going to pull this document out. Allow. Okay. You see that? No.
Yep.
You do see it.
Yeah.
July 16th at the top?
Yep. Marketing
Because I
meeting.
don't see what you're seeing. All right.
Yeah.
So I met with Joanna and Humara last week. Jean had conflicting home responsibilities, so she missed her first meeting. We missed her. We briefly discussed the exclusive caterer benefits. That being that there would be another presence in the office and there would be more collaboration and planning meetings together and events. And we need to drive that forward. So I don't know, Jean, if you have an update on where that RFQ is, or RFP, I should say, for the exclusive caterer.
I know I proofed it. I know Joanna proofed it. Joanna, do you have a timeline for what she wants to send it out?
I know she sent it back to me and you, and it's sitting on my desk right now. So I'm hoping to get my edits back to her by the end of this week. But I think originally she had earlier in the year, but I think Melissa needs to be asked about the status of that and when it's going to go out. I know they're just waiting for us to finish it, but so it's likely to be August or something like that.
Okay.
I don't think it's
Andrew, could you do a little bit of detect work and find out where that is in town hall?
Well, can I make a point? I want to make sure that the evaluation committee for that bid, that Joanna and I are on it, if possible, if allowed.
Yeah, I don't see why that would be a problem. And then as far as it, where is it town hall? I still think it resides with Joanna to make any final edits before getting it to our purchasing agent. And then Joanna, I would say if you or Jean want to, when passing it back to Lori, want to ask her when she envisions getting the
Yeah.
RFQ out, then maybe you'll have something to report back to the committee in terms of timing on the actual RFQ.
Okay.
And Joanna, I wonder if, considering everything that's going on, it's almost better to wait. There's so many companies closing.
Yeah.
There's so many companies going under.
That's my concern too.
I think it doesn't, hurt us to wait a month or two, you know what I mean? If the town is agreeing.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think there's so much up in the air right now. Nobody knows where they're going to be in 6 months to start with. Yeah.
Yeah, the problem becomes how long exactly, because with this, what we're dealing with right now could be lasting until, into next year, right? So when you say wait, the question becomes,
we want to make sure there's nobody on the verge of bankruptcy that
Yeah, of
takes over
course.
the Stevens estate. I think, right now is a really, Andrew, it's a really critical time for a lot of these companies. So, Yeah,
what
is
there's
it-
nothing we
saying
can
here-
do to there's nothing we can do to make that easier. And yes, it could go on for a long time. So I guess we have to bite the bullet at some point and go for it.
Well, is there a criteria that would review the financial, like, providing some sort of financial statement from the vendors to determine their financial viability?
Yeah.
Yes, I did put that.
Yeah.
I did
So
put
hopefully that gives at
That's
least
right.
some level of indication going into all this uncertainty.
Yeah.
This is Tom. Can I ask a question about this, but frame it in a slightly different way? So I understand the idea of the caterer, but also, is this where we can give people a lifeline to both for us to rethink about how to use the estate, but also give them a lifeline within the community, right? We have a large industrial kitchen there. It could be a makerspace for people to use, right? So does this help us also by putting this RFP out now with the appropriate financials and the appropriate evaluation to also help some of those communities that are on the, or some of those companies that are on the edge with giving them a more dedicated space and more dedicated pipeline of business?
Tom, if I may interrupt, it's, I was under the impression it's not a full service kitchen right now. I don't know, Joanna, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, it's not equipped to be a full service kitchen right now. It's really, they would prepare it off site and then they come plate, they plate it and serve it there. There's a couple, warming ovens, and there's, a couple things to finish off things, but it's not like a full service kitchen that you would think of. I mean, I was in the industry, so it's not like a full service kitchen that I'm used to, or I was used to.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I had read somewhere that we had a full service kitchen. So my apologies if I made that mistake.
Okay, so when are we planning then to revisit this? Are we gonna put this, set this aside, or is there work to be done in the next month?
Oh, there's work to be done. I think it'll be good at least to finish it. So once, as Andrew suggested, what I'll do is I'll put together my final edits on it, and then when I send it to well, not Lynn, Laurie, I will CC Eugene, and I'll CC you, Andrew, and ask about kind of where we stand and what's the schedule, if there's a schedule, and when do we anticipate this to kind of move forward. And that we would like to be involved in the selection, and there's a lot more involved. Come out and give us a tasting and the selection to the tasting and things like that. There's a lot more. Yeah, it's not just going
Right,
out
that's
to
what I
bid
was
for a
wondering.
here, send us the document kind of thing. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, there's an
right.
evaluation
Yeah,
committee
and
and we
the
grade them. So
trustees would be
that's,
at that, I'm sure too.
Okay.
But yes, we'll. So yeah, we don't need to do anything. I will follow up with my end of this and make sure we get to the answers to this question for the next meeting.
Okay. All
Okay.
right.
Then we talked about the importance of a database and developing a database so that we would have our various stakeholders in that database, and we would be able to target our messaging to those stakeholders in an easy way. Be it direct mail, social media messaging. Anything you want to add to that, Joanna?
I've asked Robin to look into some constant contact type of services. We used to use Mail Magnet, and then I ended up just using my Gmail account, and it got kind of bulky. So Robin's now looking into some new services, and I think we should be able to sign up to an annual contract with one of these services that can help us basically dissect all of our leads, all of our vendors, reach out to them with different messages, all of our contacts, all of our, local people in town, things like that. So
Joanne, where do you hold all that information? Do you have any kind of like customer CRM kind of?
no, I actually looked into it a couple of years ago. I did some demos on some event management systems, and there's a really awesome one that was created by Event Right. It's
So
like $1,000 a year
that
would be my dream moving forward, to get a system like that in place, which means we can create contract out of it. We can do mailings. So it
How much
the
is there?
huh
How much?
about $1,000 a year
And what
Oh,
was the name of
for a
it?
system.
You kind of went out.
It was Venue Bright.
Venue Bright.
Venue Bright. But I've looked at a couple of other systems that seemed to be the best, cheapest system that could address our needs. It was created by Eventbrite, so they have all of the event components.
Ah,
Can I
okay,
ask you
sure.
in the vein, because we were talking about Eventbrite at one of our meetings,
Yeah.
would they also be able to link that to Eventbrite and do the reservations?
Yes. So that
Oh,
would be cool. Like for community events and events that we have this challenge with, we need
So
reservations
that
for.
is well worth it. That is well
Yeah.
worth it, because then that would also talk into the payment system that could go directly to the town. That is
Yes.
that is worth talking about and investigating more.
Okay.
Okay.
Put that on my list.
okay. We're also Joanna, Humar, and I discussed identifying professional marketing organizations. So Joanna is most familiar with what those organizations are. As a matter of fact, the Hospitality Sales and Marketing Association, Joanna used to be the president there. So those would be targets for this database, so that because word of mouth is very important in the venue space.
Yeah, and I think we also talked about just having more visibility at networking organizations like Special Event Society, for example. We've had kind of limited representation because you have to be a member and you have to go to these events to actually benefit from them. So I think with a concerted effort into doing that, and especially with Humara, because she does have a lot of Boston event experience, between us, we can do a lot more with just by becoming members and attending some of these events and building our relationships with vendors.
Okay. So Joanna developed an event calendar, and it's very detailed with who is booking or has at least been offered which days to book their events. Her ideas were hosting on the Stevens Estate grounds. So there are organizations like New England Dance Company, there's the New England Ballet Theater in Lawrence. They can't give parent performances because of the tight space, but they could do those performances out on the grass. So she's investigating, looking into that. She is talking to North Andover Youth Services, Labor Day weekend days, still leaving the evenings open for booking weddings because they're revenue generators. And then Humara, sorry about that, auto correct.
Whoops.
Humara is working on Doggy Days, which is scheduled for August 27th. And this is going to be an opportunity for North Andover vendors to participate. So it would be the pet stores, the vets, the hardware stores even, because they have pet gear. So they could put displays up and people could bring their pets and it would be a family event.
Just to interject there, sorry, Robin, we've got to change the date for that because I booked something. Which is good, which is great. It's paid revenue, but we've got an available weekend open later on in the season for that. But everything's still in place for Doggy Days. We just moved it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Editing on the fly. Also, another opportunity for us to pass our positive messages to is to have a bridal vendor open house. Joanna has held these before. I attended my first one, I think at the beginning of 2020 before COVID hit. I had an opportunity to meet videographers, event planners, all those that you see there. And when we pay attention to them. They are very obviously willing to pass the word along. And it's Joanna in the past year too, Tom, has created an online vendor event so that people could dial into to a website and actually see the vendors at the event, and the vendors were giving presentations or demonstrations. So that was very successful. We had a lot of people tune into that, and I don't know, Joanna, if you have that feedback listed anywhere, and I think that would be something that we should post.
Yes, I'll put a summary together,
Yeah,
because we did get a lot of hits and
right.
yeah. Okay. How
I
to vote.
also see that the flash vote, the recent flash vote, is an opportunity for the Stevens estate to address their concerns and their comments. And it's an opportunity to, again, promote the Stevens estate. I'm calling out one comment in particular. Town meeting just approved an appropriation of more than $360,000 for the Stevens estate. That's half the story. The resident doesn't know that that's derived from revenues from this past fiscal year, and that it's being put into the budget based on everything that Joanna has been successful at selling. So we need to get some education out there. So appropriation of funds. I would like to see a message that goes out how 1 year's revenue supports the next year's budget. Did you know? Also another, perhaps through Sarah Brush, we thank you for your feedback. We are in a position to offer the things that you are most interested in. There are events planned up at the Stevens estate. We're going to be publishing a calendar. And I think too, we need to concentrate on relaunching the professional website that Joanna spent time and talent in developing. She needs to have a resume up there, because some of the feedback was, we don't know what the Stevens estate is, and why don't you just hire a professional event manager? Well, we have a professional at the helm and much more than an event planner. So to have her picture on the website and along with her resume, her credentials. So I'm wondering, since I think it was Dave and Jerry, you were looking into getting that website relaunched. I don't know where we are on that.
It was me, and I that's a lingering action item for me to do, is to get together with Chris McClure and Joanna, and I think the real answer to that is going to be that I shouldn't predict, but I don't see anything as an IT person. I don't see anything that stops us from getting the material we want up and having the town be the host. But perhaps there's something I'm not seeing that prevents that. So that's on me to get together with Joanna and Chris. Joanna's given me all the information I need now for that. So that's on my to-do list, Robin.
Okay. I'm wondering too, Andrew, if you could kind of grease the skids there. I launched a website at the last job that I had in social services. And once we designed that website, it was just a matter of pointing to that new URL, both internally and with the host, the website host. So I know Chris would be involved in flipping that switch. It's not a big deal as far as I'm concerned. As far as I know, I mean, is there something that you could do to help us with that? We need some visibility there, Andrew.
Yeah, but let me preempt Andrew's answer. I mean, we haven't really asked yet, so it's no. I would suggest, Robin, if you're okay with it, let me have my meeting with Chris first.
Okay.
Before we do anything else. I mean, Andrew, you probably agree with that approach, I would guess.
I do, and just and sorry to interrupt your response, Dave, but I would just say I will do whatever I can to help facilitate, the website that you guys envision, as long as it comports with, our IT policy, our IT director's desires as far as, being appropriate in the way that it's configured. So, and I'm sure it will be if he works collaboratively with Dave and Joanna.
Yeah. Let me just add something. The one thing I have learned when I read through all the material Joanna gave me, that there was a real issue with the way it was hosted before. So Chris appropriately took action on that. But unfortunately, right, with all the other things going on, we collectively, and I'll bear some of this responsibility. I kind of, I should have probably done this a month ago, but I had some other stuff come up in the meantime to deal with, right, with regards to the Stevens estate. So I will get to it.
Great.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a problem. I can't believe I believe there is going to be a good solution to that.
Awesome.
And,
Thank you, Dave. And then last,
Robin and
oh,
David.
Go ahead, Tom.
go ahead, Tom.
I just had a question about the events calendar. And Joanna, I know you and I haven't talked or haven't had a chance to talk, but as a parent of who
kids.
interacts with a lot of parents and kids, and my son was here for a moment. When we think about the state and the business lines, and this can be an offline conversation for the next meeting, how are we thinking about events for families, like movie nights with PG-13 movies, or something like a Lawn on the D kind of experience where you have a bar but you have games and things like that? There's a lot of, now that we're getting into stage 3 of the recovery and stage 4 of the recovery, it seems that there's more opportunities for us to open up spaces where people can come and have those types of activities. And I'm just wondering if that's part of the events calendar, and if it was part of the package and I missed it, I apologize. But I'm just curious about how does that fit into a kind of our business plan of generating revenue and adding more events that might be tailored towards residents.
So yes, thanks for that input. That's we've actually been working on since April, since May. I designed a restaurant program for all the restaurants to come and use our facilities when they were restricted to their outdoor spaces. And then as soon as I released that, it was they were allowed to open their interior rooms. So keeping on, ahead of the opening processes and staying alert to who needs what in town in terms of local businesses that are suffering is really been high on my focus list. And in fact, after Robin's section, I have my estate operations report, which is basically just a summary of everything that we've been doing. And I was just going to reel it off to you all, but it does include working with the Stevens Memorial Library. I've given them a series of dates that I want to work with them on, whether it's Monday to Friday or every Monday for 4 weeks, like the other movie nights, but including an adult movie night, which we would have the bar and adults coming to see a movie and maybe having food available for them during that event. In addition, we're working with the youth and recreation services. I'm trying to plan a scavenger hunt for the Labor Day weekend with them, and we will see kind of how that fits together. But basically, from our last meeting, which you weren't at, Tom, but our last meeting in June, the scenario was we weren't quite open yet, but we saw an opportunity coming because we had postponed all of our events until September, but we now see an opening as of the end of June that we now are the opportune destination for people who've either had to plan or either had to cancel their hotel weddings that were still going to take place this year, or plan some short-term events. So basically, I've managed to book several events that take place starting in August, that actually cover the cost of renting the tent through till the end of October. And I have already issued those dates to Kathleen at the library and to Rick at the youth services to come together, and we can put together some events together for the youth and for children in town for the movie night to continue.
Yeah,
I'm also
Joanna, what I'm thinking about though is taking that to another step, right? So there's a lot of competing towns that are looking at, if you go to the Loop, there's movie night at the Loop. The rec center is charging like 10 or 15 bucks a car.
Yeah.
Up at the
And
various other places, there's a number of these different things, and with the space we have and things like that, is there an opportunity for us to think about on those off nights? And again, I know time is late, but we can take this offline for the next meeting, to think about, can we create some programming and marketing that would draw people in? Because I do think there's a fairly vast untapped market of families, parents, younger parents who would be interested in going back to movies up there, the drive-ins, the beer gardens, those types of events that, if possible, if we could hold them under the current regs.
May I interrupt, please?
Sure.
Joanna, when we met with Robin, Joanna, and we met and we came up with a calendar. We came up.
I have it up on my.
It's there right now. Yeah.
You can't.
Okay.
You can see it.
We did come up. We have a movie night. We were thinking of showing like Jaws and having Joe Fish cater it, like coming up with a boxed meal of fish and chips, and that would be on either August 1st or August 2nd. So we came up with a calendar of, all the way from from early July, no, late July, all the way
August,
to the end of August, of all different events, and it includes barbecues, movie nights, picnics, princess teas, wine pairing for mom's night out for wine and cheese, like WHINE, like to whine about your life. Dog days of summer.
Yeah.
So there is a calendar in its existence. I think it just wasn't presented tonight. So I think that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
It does exist.
Well, that's pretty much
All right.
this plus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, if we could
ongoing
email that to everybody, I think that would be great.
Yeah, Robin, I hate to be the time police, but I think that's part of my job. We have about 5 minutes left, unless everybody really wants to go longer. So if you wouldn't mind wrapping up, because I want Joanna to have a chance to present. And
okay, just one last thing. I'd like to create with Joanna some advertising, messaging, and have that sent to Sarah Brush, because she sends out a lot of information about the town. And I think, Andrew, if we could kind of get that going with Sarah Brush, that she knows to expect it, that there's going to be some Stevens Estate messaging coming through, that would be great.
okay, Andrew, you got that? Can't see anymore.
I've got that. I can follow up with her too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And
all right.
respectively committed.
All right. Thank you.
Submitted.
Thank you, Robin. All right, Joanna, can you do it fairly fast?
Yeah, I can. I'm not going to share my screen. I am just going to, well, Robin, you can keep your screen on if you want. But I'm just going to read off. I made some notes and I want to read them off to you.
Okay.
And I'll make sure it's pretty quick that we go through. Okay, so so basically, in terms of our bookings, we have got $20,000 to $25,000 in deposits expected by the end of July. That is events booked in the past week since the beginning of July, and 90 the inquiries that I believe are at 95% close to conversion in my pipeline. This is the confirmed bookings I've got, and as you can see, there's a lot of kind of last minute inquiries that are coming in, and it's being able to manage those and being able to address the concerns that those people have that is enabling us to actually book these weddings. And the number of weddings that we've booked is quite impressive. So we've got one wedding ceremony for August the 1st, which is in 2 weeks' time. It's for 50 people. It's a mini Moni. It's going to be Zoomed to different people across the country. It allows me to involve Humara in her first wedding ceremony. So it also allows us to kind of practice our social distancing in terms of the seating plan out on the lawn for the ceremony. So that's a good kind of intro. We've got 2 regular weddings booked. with ceremonies and receptions for August the 22nd and September the 20th. Those are both came in within 2 months, and they confirmed within a week. I've got 2 additional wedding receptions, one for August the 15th. I'm basically, I've requested to Andrew today that we rent the tent from August the 20th for 11 weeks through till the end of November. Basically, the town has a spending freeze, so I wanted to not rent the tent until we had a weekend's worth of a decent event to pay for the tent rental, and that way we can open up the tent availability to the people in the community to use for other events. So I've got 2 additional wedding receptions, one in August, one in October in the pipeline. I've got 2, this is what Robin mentioned. I've got 2 events. One is during the week, it's Monday to Sunday, and one is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. One's Acting Out, which is an acting school in Lawrence, and one is the North Andover School of Dance. As Robin said, for their end of year performances. Between them, they're bringing about $3,000 in, which is great. It's a significantly reduced rate because I wanted to reach out to them and help them. They were in tough need at this time because their kids have been practicing for a performance that wasn't going to happen. So I'm also working with 2 other organizations, and maybe we can get some more of those. I'm working with the North Andover Poets Corner to host 2 poets evenings in the garden this summer. We did that last year. It was quite popular. It was 2 of their most popular poets evenings, hopefully to increase the number of poets in town. I've also booked 2 bat mitzvahs, one for November and one for January. Lots of wedding inquiries for 21 and 22. I've got 2 pending reservations for 2022. They'll be my first confirmed bookings, and I'm expecting them to come in by the end of July. And then I've got at least 10 other proposals out for weddings, and I typically convert at least 20 to 30% of those. So that's kind of where I am. It's a really interesting time. There's a lot of people that, for example, this August the 15th wedding, they were due to get married at the Millennium Bostonian Hotel. They waited till this time for some reason to actually decide that they weren't going to be able to get married there. So now they're picking the Stevens estate. They have a short turnaround time, and because we can address those concerns too, they were really, really happy with that. Other than that, are there any questions related to the sales in our inquiry business?
Just one from me. It
Yeah.
sounds like most of what you just went through is stuff that's all relatively new, right? That would be
Yeah,
Yeah.
none of this stuff was even on the radar at our last board
Right.
meeting. So it's all come in since June the 30th.
That's excellent. That's
Yeah,
fantastic. Thank you.
it's really good.
Good
Thanks,
news.
Dave. Yeah. And then finally, I'll just go over my operations update. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm anticipating, or I've requested that we get the outdoor tent up from the weekend of August the 22nd to November the 1st. This allows us to have enough paid events to cover that 11 weeks where we can use the midweek dates, daytimes and Sundays and evenings for our local community events that I'm working with our community leaders on. I've ordered the materials and supplies that we need for COVID-19 in terms of making the estate ready, and then also pending being open to the public, which will be happening in August. So I'm basically anticipating, assuming that the town opens town buildings to the public by August the 1st, and that's kind of my proviso, of course. I anticipate that I can use the interior of the house just for the bathrooms for that ceremony, and we'll be able to give tours at that point too. But I'm still waiting for the go ahead on that. I've got a new registration form that I've put in place. It's to send for clients to send out with their invitations. It's for tracking and tracing purposes. Every family group leader that comes to an event at the Stevens estate will have to register their name and their phone number and contact information, so that potentially we could reach out to them if we needed to, if something happened in terms of somebody becoming symptomatic of having COVID-19. Hopefully that will never happen. But I've created a paper version that we'll be sending out to people to send out with their invitations. And I've also created a Google site that isn't live yet, but it allows guests at these events to go to a dedicated site to find out all of the information they could possibly need. You need to wear a mask. Your access to the bathrooms is here. This is where you arrive. This is where you depart. So there are no surprises, and people feel comfortable coming to the Stevens estate for an event. And then finally, oh yeah, the final bathroom is in the final phase of completion, the second floor bathroom. We will have completed 5 bathrooms in 5 years after this one's done in the next week or so. I really appreciate the support and the help of Greg Roberts, who's a facilities manager, in taking care of that with me. And then, as we have just indicated, all of our inquiries and the number of people that are trying to come to the Stevens estate now. Stevens estate is perfect for phase 3, stage 1 in this new normal that we're in, and we're finding that people are also seeing us as the perfect destination for them to go, which is leaving me very optimistic for the rest of this fiscal year and calendar year. And that's all I've got.
Thank you.
So,
Anyone have urgent questions there?
so this is Jerry, just thinking forward for monthly updates.
Yeah.
Can you include just a brief status on the capital projects that are approved for this fiscal year? I think you mentioned the bathroom, I think, which is one of them maybe. So
Yeah,
you don't need to update now.
Okay,
Just
for next time.
Going forward, given that's a critical activity, we're spending, funds to help the
Yes.
estate, get up to snuff in a number of areas. So that's
Okay.
good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Joanna. Everybody else is good?
Welcome.
All right. I would like to table item 11 unless anyone has a problem with that. That's a review of the annual report working document. Everybody good? Okay.
Yes. I'm very good with that one.
Yeah, Joanna, I want to talk to you about that offline so I understand
Good. Okay. Yeah. All right.
better
Good.
what that's all about. Okay.
Yeah.
'Cause,
Hello, Dave.
yes. Oh, hi, Ellen. I'm getting to you. Hang on. We're almost there. Does anyone have any urgent new business? Okay, hearing none. We are now at public input. Ellen, welcome.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for the sentiment that you expressed earlier. And I just wanted to say thank you to a wonderful board, diligence and cohesiveness. And it's been my pleasure serving with you and as chair. I am very touched by the sentiment, and I assure you I'm not one known for not speaking up. Just call me Ellen 411. And I have volunteered there for so many years, 7 or 8 years, I stopped counting. But I will always be that passionate, dedicated, and devoted volunteer that will care and love everything about the Stevens estate. So congratulations, Dave, as chair and vice chair, and our wonderful minute taker, Jerry. And thank you, everyone, for carrying out such wonderful marketing and so many fabulous plans. Looking forward. Thank you again.
All right. Thank you, Ellen. And
Thanks, Ellen.
we really do
Good to hear from you.
Yeah, we do appreciate all your hard work and dedication. Absolutely.
Thank you, Ellen.
Well,
Thanks, Ellen.
it will still be there, guys. Don't worry.
Thank you, Ellen.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Okay, you too. I don't have anything in my email for other public input, so I feel like unless there's someone on the line, anyone on the line wish to speak? Okay, hearing none, I think we are done with item 13. I think if everyone's okay with it, I'd rather use email to figure out our next meeting date rather than take the time now. Basically, my wife is probably staring at me through the wall right here, wanting me to
Yeah, I moved to it.
Thank you very much. That's what I was looking for. I second that.
Excellent.
Can I do it by affirmation? Anyone opposed?
No.
No. All right. Thank you, everybody. A great meeting, a little longer than I hoped, but that's okay. We just
Sorry for the questions.
Right. All right. No problem at all, Tom. Welcome again. And everyone have a good night. And we'll talk to you all soon.
Have a
Thank
good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Bye now.
Bye.
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 Bye.